But the things I saw in that hotel weren't hallucinations. I still hear the scratching in the walls when the nights get too quiet. I still see the faces in the wallpaper when I close my eyes. And if you're reading this, you might see them too. My name is Daniel Marrow, freelance journalist and former skeptic. I used to believe everything in life had an explanation: science, logic, statistics. Then I stayed one night at the Halcyon Hotel, an abandoned estate on the outskirts of Dunsmouth, Massachusetts, while chasing a story I thought would make my career. It was the kind of assignment you only take when you're desperate for relevance. The Halcyon had been shut down since 1979 after a string of disappearances that authorities blamed on faulty construction and poor safety. Locals whispered other theories: satanic rituals, cursed rooms, guests who checked in but never checked out. I dismissed it all as folklore. The building stood like a wounded beast at the end of a gravel road, 6 floors of rotting elegance, its once golden windows now blinded by grime. My breath fogged as I stepped into the lobby, flashlight trembling in my hand. The air smelled of damp wood and old perfume. Faded wallpaper curled off the walls like burnt skin. Behind the reception desk, a guest book lay open to a page dated October 13, 1979. The final entry read, Room 12. Checking in for one night. Just one night. I don't know why I signed beneath it. Maybe curiosity, maybe arrogance. My name, in fresh ink beneath ghosts of the past. The room was exactly as the rumors described: Room 12, top floor, east wing. The brass key stuck in the lock like it didn't want me there. When the door creaked open, a gust of cold air brushed my face, as though the room exhaled in relief or warning. My flashlight beam swept across a torn velvet chair, a cracked mirror, and a bed draped in dust. I set up my recorder, camera, and journal, documenting everything. For the first hour, nothing happened, just the sound of rain ticking against the window and my own breathing. Then, at exactly 11:47, the door to the bathroom closed on its own. Not slammed, closed, quietly, like someone inside didn't want to wake me. I told myself it was the wind. But when I opened the door, the mirror was fogged. In the condensation, a message had been written with a fingertip. You shouldn't have signed the book. My pulse hammered. I wiped the mirror clean, and for a split second, my reflection didn't move. It stood still, staring back at me, a second longer than it should have. Then it smiled. I stumbled back into the room, knocking over my tripod. The recorder kept rolling. I listened later to what it captured. Between my gasps and curses, another voice whispered, faint but unmistakable, "You're in our room now." That night, I didn't sleep. Shadows shifted where there was no light. The wallpaper seemed to pulse, like veins beneath translucent skin. Around 3 in the morning, the radio, unplugged, began playing soft jazz from decades past. And under the music, a woman hummed along, somewhere close. By dawn, I was ready to leave. But when I opened the door, the hallway wasn't the same. The carpet was fresh, the lamps lit, and faint music drifted from below. The Halcyon was alive again, as it had been in 1979. A man in a bellhop's uniform approached, smiling warmly. "Good morning, Mr. Marrow," he said. "Breakfast is being served in the dining hall." My mouth went dry. I hadn't told anyone my name. And that's when I realized, I hadn't just stayed the night. I'd checked into a memory that never ended. When I stepped into the dining hall that morning, the world felt rewound. The wallpaper was clean and golden, chandeliers glimmered like morning dew, and the scent of coffee and fresh pastries hung in the air. The Halcyon Hotel wasn't the crumbling relic I'd entered the night before, it was alive again, but not in any way nature intended. At the far end of the hall stood a grand table, long enough to seat 20 guests. And they were all there, silent, smiling, perfectly still. Their faces were pale, but not lifeless. They moved with an eerie grace, like marionettes pretending to be human. A woman in a cream dress waved me over. "Mr. Marrow," she said, "your seat's waiting." I hesitated. "How do you know my name?" Her smile widened, the corners of her lips twitching unnaturally. "Why, you signed the book, didn't you? That means you're family now." I wanted to run. But the moment I looked toward the door, the air seemed to thicken. The room pulsed faintly, the walls breathing in and out like lungs. Something wanted me to stay. So I sat. The bellhop from before poured me a cup of coffee. I noticed his hands, they were trembling, as if something inside him was trying to escape. The coffee smelled normal, but the reflection in the liquid wasn't mine. The face looking back at me had hollow eyes, and when I blinked, it didn't. Across the table, the guests spoke in low murmurs that didn't match their lip movements. It was like hearing a choir sing in reverse. I strained to understand a single word, and the harder I listened, the more my ears rang. Then, silence. The woman in the cream dress raised her glass and said, "To those who checked in and never left." They all repeated it in unison, voices layered like an echo in a cavern. "To those who checked in and never left." A shiver ran down my spine. When I looked around again, the walls had changed. The wallpaper patterns now resembled faces, hundreds of them, pressed into the plaster. Their eyes followed me. And I swear, one of them mouthed my name. The seat beside me was empty until it wasn't. Suddenly, a man appeared, clean-shaven, sharp suit, dark eyes that looked too alive. He smiled faintly, though it never reached his eyes. "You're not supposed to be here yet," he said. "Who are you?" I asked. "I used to write stories too," he replied. "Until the hotel decided I was part of one." He reached across the table, placing a yellowed newspaper clipping before me. The headline read, "Journalist Daniel Marrow missing after investigating Halcyon Hotel." I stared at the date. October 14, 1979. "That's impossible," I whispered. "I wasn't even born then." He leaned closer, voice dropping to a hiss. "Time doesn't pass here, it loops. Everyone who checks in steps into someone else's story. You're in mine now." The lights flickered. The guests froze, mid-bite, their eyes rolling back like dolls. The man's hand tightened around my wrist. "If you want to leave," he said, "don't look at the mirror. Whatever happens, don't look." And then the chandelier shattered. Glass rained down like crystal tears, plunging the room into darkness. In the flicker of my flashlight, I saw them, the guests, standing, twitching, their faces melting into something inhuman. The walls screamed with the voices of the wallpaper faces. I ran back through the lobby, past the front desk, clutching my camera like it could save me. But the exit doors were gone, replaced by an endless hallway of doors, each numbered 12. Behind one of them, I could hear myself whispering. My recorder picked it up later, "You can leave the room, Daniel. But the room never leaves you." Every door I opened led to another version of room 12, identical, yet different in small ways. A clock that ticked backward. A window that showed a sunless sky. A phone that rang and whispered my name when I answered. Finally, I found one door slightly ajar, with faint light spilling through the crack. I pushed it open, and saw myself sitting at the desk, writing this story. The other me looked up, smiled, and said, "You're almost done. Just 3 more pages to go." The other me sat perfectly still at the desk inside room 12. The sound of my own voice, steady, calm, too calm, filled the air as he wrote, pen scratching against paper. "I've been waiting for you," he said without looking up. My throat tightened. "Who are you?" "I told you already," he whispered, turning toward me with that same unsettling smile. "I'm you. Or rather, what the hotel made of you." His eyes were darker than mine, deep pits reflecting not light, but the absence of it. He gestured toward the mirror hanging beside the bed. It starts there. That's where it takes us all. I remembered what the man in the dining hall had warned me, don't look at the mirror. But curiosity is the disease of every journalist. And despite every trembling instinct screaming run, I stepped closer. The mirror was oval, framed in gold that had tarnished black. My reflection moved as I did, but slightly delayed, as if it was thinking about whether it wanted to follow. When I raised my hand, it hesitated. When I blinked, it smiled. Then, a crack split the glass, thin as a hairline. The sound it made was not like glass breaking. It sounded like a sigh. From the crack, a faint black liquid oozed down the surface, dripping onto the dresser below. It wasn't paint or ink, it was thick, like old blood turned to tar. The smell was metallic and sweet. Behind me, the other meat spoke, "You wrote your name in the book. That's the pact. Every signature gives the hotel another story, another life to keep." I turned. Why? What does it want? He stood, his form flickering slightly, like a bad film reel skipping frames. It wants to be remembered. It feeds on memory, identity, narrative. When you tell your story, you're writing its next chapter. The walls groaned around us, the wallpaper faces writhing as though trying to push through. My flashlight flickered and died, plunging the room into a sickly amber glow from nowhere. He pointed at the mirror again. "It's time you met the others." The mirror rippled like water when I touched it. My hand sank through the surface, cold as ice, pulling me inward. I didn't fall, I drifted. On the other side was a hallway lined with mirrors on both sides, stretching into infinity. Each reflection showed a different version of me, older, younger, terrified, insane. Some screamed silently, pounding on the glass as I walked by. Others smiled as if welcoming me home. Every few steps, I passed a door marked Room 12, and from each came a faint sound, laughter, crying, whispers blending into a single hum that burrowed into my skull. Then I saw her, the woman in the cream dress, her reflection appearing in every mirror at once. "You're walking through memory," she said softly. "You're almost where you belong." I stumbled backward. "I don't belong here." Her eyes gleamed. "You signed the book. That was consent. We only take those who ask to stay." The mirrors began to crack in unison, webbing outward. From within each fracture, black hands reached out, grasping, clawing. I ran, but no matter how fast I moved, the hallway looped. The same doors. The same faces. The same voice whispering. "You're not escaping. You're remembering." Finally, I stopped running. The mirrors pulsed once, and the reflections vanished, except one. It was me again. But this version looked alive. Normal. Awake. "Listen carefully," it said. "You can break the loop. Burn your name. Destroy the guest book." "How?" I gasped. "The fire has to start here," it whispered, placing a lighter on the other side of the glass. "But you have to mean it." Without thinking, I reached through. The lighter was warm in my hand. And then, the world shattered. I woke up on the floor, gasping. The mirror was gone, only a dark scorch mark on the wall where it had been. My hand still clutched the lighter. The air smelled of smoke and something older, like burnt paper and decay. The guest book. I stumbled downstairs, every light in the hallway flickering wildly. The faces on the wallpaper screamed as I passed. The lobby was filled with whispering wind, pages fluttering though no window was open. The guest book still sat on the counter, open to the same cursed page, Room 12. Checking in for one night. Just one night. My signature beneath it glowed faintly red. I flicked the lighter. The flame danced like a living thing, small but defiant. The moment the fire touched the page, the hotel roared. The walls convulsed, the chandelier above me crashed to the floor, and every door slammed shut at once. I kept burning. The fire spread faster than it should have, racing across the book like it was made of oil. The voices rose, screaming, begging, pleading. I didn't stop. And then, silence. Everything went dark. When I woke again, I was outside. Dawn. The Halcyon Hotel stood behind me, blackened, smoke curling from its windows. My recorder lay beside me, still running. On the tape, a voice whispered, faint but clear, "You burned the book, but you wrote the story. That's enough." I should have left it there. But when I looked at the recorder's small digital display, the timestamp froze. October 13, 1979. The Halcyon burned for 3 nights. Or maybe it was 3 hours. Time meant nothing there. All I remember is the smell, smoke, ash, and something sweet beneath it, like old perfume trapped in flames. When the fire finally died, only the foundation remained. The world felt wrongly quiet. Even the birds seemed afraid to sing near the ruins. I stumbled to my car, every muscle trembling, and drove until my gas light blinked red. The road behind me dissolved into fog, and when I glanced in the rearview mirror, there was nothing. No hotel. No road. Just blank, endless white. That's when I realized I wasn't driving away from the Halcyon. I was driving within it. I found a small diner on the outskirts of town, or what looked like one. Inside, an old man stood behind the counter, polishing a mug that was already spotless. He looked up as I entered, eyes weary but kind. "Coffee?" he asked. I nodded. My voice wouldn't come out. I sat at the counter, hands still blackened from soot. He poured the coffee and said, "Long night?" I stared into the cup. My reflection wavered in the surface, tired, pale, eyes hollow. But behind my reflection, something else moved. A shadow. A familiar one. "I burned it," I whispered. "The hotel. The guest book. I destroyed it." The old man smiled, slow and knowing. "Did you, though?" He gestured to a shelf behind him. On it sat a single object, barely visible beneath a layer of dust, a charred guest book, edges curled, pages singed but intact. My stomach dropped. He continued, "You think fire kills stories? No, son. It feeds them. Every flame burns another chapter into being." I backed away. No. No, that can't be, and then I saw it. The reflection in the coffee wasn't mine anymore. It was the man in the bellhop uniform. He smiled, tipping his hat. "Good morning, Mr. Marrow. Breakfast is being served." The coffee rippled, darkening to black, swallowing the light around it. The diner melted into smoke and marble. And I was standing once again in the lobby of the Halcyon Hotel. Everything was exactly as before, the chandeliers glowed softly, the air thick with dust and perfume. The guest book waited on the desk, perfectly clean, open to the same page. Only this time, there was a new line written beneath my name. Daniel Marrow, checked out. Replacement pending. My breath caught. The pen, sitting beside the book, lifted on its own. It hovered above the paper, its nib dripping fresh ink. The air buzzed with whispers. "Someone always has to stay," they murmured. "Someone has to tell the story. Someone has to keep the rooms ready." I backed toward the exit, heart hammering. The door opened, to the same fog I'd driven through before. A voice echoed faintly through it. "If you leave, someone else takes your place. Are you sure you want that?" I froze. Faces flickered in the fog, strangers, travelers, people with cameras and notebooks. People like me. Curious. Skeptical. Hungry for stories. The hotel wanted them. I turned back toward the lobby. The whispers softened. The pen lay still. And for the first time, the air didn't feel cold. I sat at the reception desk, staring at the guest book. My hand moved before I could stop it. I picked up the pen and wrote, "Manager on duty, Daniel Marrow." The chandeliers brightened. The clock above the desk began to tick again. And somewhere deep within the halls, a new voice called out, "Excuse me. I'd like to check in." I smiled. "Of course," I said. "Room 12 is ready for you. They'll tell you the Halcyon no longer exists, that it was demolished decades ago. But if you drive far enough along Route 47, just before the road disappears into fog, you might see a flicker of gold light in the distance. A hotel sign, cracked but glowing. A bellhop waiting by the door. And if you listen closely, a man's voice greeting you warmly, 'Welcome back. Checking in for one night, just one night.'"